favored to beat St. Vincent and the Grenadines tonight. We'll see if it actually happens. But if they do, then El Salvador would have to get at least a draw from this game. They could not afford to lose it. So a 0-0 result would be fine for El Salvador, but of course, to spend 90 minutes playing for a 0-0 draw is very risky. They've come out on the attack in these opening 5 minutes, although Hernan Gomez doesn't look too happy. Free kick now for Suriname. Ryan Heel is surrounded in the midfield. Heel, a guy who will drop into the midfield to pick up the ball. He's very fast. Likes to take on defenders 1v1. He's one of 3 Heel brothers who are representing El Salvador now. It was big news when they decided to do that because they were all born in Colombia. Their father played for the Colombian national team. Pressure in the midfield, but the foul given away again as Jean-Paul Boasius was bundled over. Boasius, a guy who's battled back from cancer twice already. He's only in his mid-20s. This ball into the area and out to handle is Mario Gonzalez. A respected voice in the foundation, the spine of this El Salvador team in goal. He's played in the domestic league for quite a while. Long ball out of the back from Julio Cibrian, the captain. The ball will sometimes hold up on the grass here. Another free kick to Suriname. See early fouls against El Salvador. Come out very aggressively, as you'd expect. Suriname like to possess the ball. They want to play out from the back the way they did there, but that's the danger when you give it away. Here come El Salvador now through the middle looking for a free kick, and they get one. 30 yards out, first card of the night as well. Richanel Margaret goes into the book in just the 8th minute. Tracking back to defend, but shouldered down Brian Landaverde. So Werner Hahn back between the sticks for Suriname tonight, lining up a 4-man wall. Alexander Larin, one of the 2 who's around this. He is famous for his left foot for El Salvador. He's scored from free kicks for them and for his various club sides over the years. It is Larin. It's off the top of the wall. It deflects out. It'll be the first corner of the night. Enriquez takes this corner. The guy who's in there to deliver good crosses and service from corners like these. He swings it in low. The flick on was won at the near post. That was exactly what they wanted. It was Ortiz who got to it with the head, but then it came off the defender. It's a very lush playing surface here in the Estadio Cuscatlán. The grass is long, so you can't always assume the ball's going to roll out of play, even when it looks like it will. Tahena. He forms the base of that midfield generally. Very combative defensive midfielder. Lots of energy, lots of work. Ordaz. Conceding the throw that time. Mentioned Nathan Ordaz playing for LAFC in Major League Soccer. It's been a real breakout for them this year. Scored a goal against Inter Miami and Lionel Messi in the first leg of their Concacaf Champions Cup quarterfinal. That was the winner in that first leg. Inter Miami, of course, came back in the second leg to advance, but still a great moment for Ordaz. Over 10 minutes gone in this one. Suriname bouncing it over the top, and the chance is on. It's a big save, massive save from Mario Gonzalez. But now the whistle is gone, and it appears it would not have counted. Well, he was onside here, Jaden Montnor, but then apparently whistled for the foul as he bodied off the defender right there. Referee John Freeman blew the whistle. Still a great save for Mario Gonzalez. He didn't know it wasn't going to count. That's the threat that Suriname posed, though. They can lull you to sleep sometimes. They can hurt you in a number of different ways. They can play pretty intricate possession-based soccer. That's generally the style they prefer, as I said earlier, but they have speed. They have the ability to hit you straight over the top with that direct long ball, too. This is good play down the right by El Salvador. Looking to high press. Ordaz applying that pressure and then forces the throw. There were shouts for handball right there against Jaden Turfcrier. Puerto Rico have scored. Just coming across right now. Puerto Rico taking a 1-0 lead over St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And again, that's expected. They're supposed to win that game. More pressure on El Salvador. As it stands, this result will be good enough for El Salvador, but they can't afford to lose. Suriname victory. If Puerto Rico go on to beat St. Vincent and the Grenadines, El Salvador would be out. They have a player down. It is Alexander Larine, a guy they really would not want to lose. Larine, one of the most experienced members of this team. This is his 88th appearance for the national side. A guy who, as we mentioned a couple minutes ago, is their primary threat from free kicks. Can score from distance from open play, too. Landed awkwardly on that right foot or ankle, maybe. And it looked like he was grabbing the knee when he pulled up. El Salvador have to make an early change. Diego Flores warming up. We thought we might see in the second half, but I would rather not have to use him this early. Diego Flores, the kind of guy that El Salvador would like to bring on once they have a lead and they want to shut up shop, be safe and secure for the final 15 or 20 minutes or so. off the pitch for now. We'll see if he tries to continue. Salvador temporarily playing with 10. Yeah, you can see the training staff across the way signaling they're going to have to make a change. Well, that's a shame for Alexander Larin and for El Salvador, who have defending to do here. And they concede a corner. It's a good block. Larin, you don't need me to tell you how disappointing this is for him. And if that's any kind of significant injury, whether it's to the knee or ankle, could put him in doubt for the final round of qualifying this fall if El Salvador get there. But they can't worry about that right now. They have to defend this corner with 10, then they'll have to make a sub. Suriname's first corner of the night, and it's punched away by Gonzalez. These are the moments to be safe and secure with the ball if you're El Salvador. Or Daz trying to make progress, but shielded off it. Back for Han. We would expect Diego Flores is going to come on in a moment as Larin's replacement. It's a good sliding block by Jairo Henriquez to prevent Suriname breaking down that right wing. Well, this is where Larin apparently injured himself. It's an amazing atmosphere inside the Cuscatlán. Here comes that change for El Salvador. Here comes Diego Flores. Generally, a guy who provides defensive depth for them. He can play either fullback or a wide defensive midfield role. He's generally a player who sits back more than Larin does, so he doesn't offer as much in the attack. Certainly doesn't offer Larin's wicked left foot. So an early blow for El Salvador. Free kick for Suriname, meanwhile. Oh, El Salvador bench trying to console Larin. Full commitment from Brian Tamacas. Played in the USL Championship in the United States for several years, now playing domestically in El Salvador. Almost able to spring Brian Heel. Those are the situations El Salvador want to get Heel in. 1v1 with the last defender. Heel's really dangerous if he can get isolated like that, but the ball wasn't quite good enough to find him. Suriname starting to find some rhythm. Attacking down the right, bursting into the area, put into the middle, and it's an opening goal. Suriname spoiling the dream for now. El Salvador in big trouble. But El Nadio keep on rolling. 3 wins from 3 in this qualifying round. And they lead once again in the Cuscatlán. Justin Lonwijk, who came through the PSV Eindhoven Academy, playing in Denmark now. An example of the talent that Suriname now can access. And he makes the difference for them tonight. Perfect finish, angled into the corner after great work down that right side by Jamilio Richters. Absolutely nothing Mario Gonzalez could do. And now lots to do for El Salvador. They've lost one of their leading players. They've fallen behind. They cannot lose. They are losing. The Cuscatlán much quieter for now. And this was the fear in the Salvadorian media leading up to this game. They knew that Suriname posed a big threat, even though they didn't have a lot to gain today. 8 players coming into the starting lineup for them, but you know all those players. This means a lot for them to start for Suriname, and they're going to be determined to make a name for themselves tonight. This is another free kick for Suriname 20 minutes in. There was always the knowledge that if El Salvador didn't get off to a good start, especially if they conceded that first goal, this huge crowd, this often intimidating crowd, could start to become tense, anxious, sullen. Would that tension start to transmit to the players? That's the question now. Still a long way to go in this game. A draw would still be good enough for El Salvador, but they are on their heels. Right now, Suriname pressing for a second goal. Hernan Gomez going crazy at the 4th official on the touchline. There's a lot at stake for him tonight, too. If they don't get through to that final qualifying round, that would be an enormous disappointment. They brought him in here to work his magic with them the way he had with 3 other nations before. To that final qualifying round, you come up just short maybe. That would be still devastating, but they could live with that at least. Not even reaching the final round. That would be unacceptable. As things stand right now, that would be the case. Still 1-0 to Puerto Rico over St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Fouls are piling up for El Salvador. They're a bit fortunate they haven't had a card yet. This was the goal a moment ago. It was that tenacious work in the midfield initially. And Jamilio Richter's able to set up Justin Lonwick. Straight out of play by Werner Hahn. We're midway through the first half. Get around the corner here, El Salvador. They can. Into the box for Heel. It's touched out. Corner for El Salvador as they spark to life again. It's a good throw in, and it caught Suriname a bit. Great effort by Cartagena to keep it in play, pull it across, cause an issue for Suriname. Now Nathan Ordaz with Larine off the pitch. It's Ordaz to take this left-footed in-swinger. And he overshoots that far post. Andaverde back into the mix. Touchdown edge of the area, and on the half volley over the bar. Cartagena doesn't score many. Even though there's nearly 3/4 of this game remaining, it already feels urgent for El Salvador. And of course, the challenge for them mentally is they can't panic now. Can't rush things too much. This is a handball against the Surinamese midfielder. Free kick for El Salvador. Puerto Rico taking an 11th minute lead against St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Their game kicked off at the same time as this one did. See the skill that Suriname have through the midfields. Now turned over by El Salvador. Suriname starting to play with swagger. Lonwick, the goal scorer, now at the top of the area, and it's just over the bar. Jamilio Richters, who set up their goal, almost had one of his own. Way too much room at the top of the box. El Salvador dropping off to defend their 18-yard area, and they left Richters way too much time to try to pick a spot. Here comes from this giveaway in the middle of the park. You hear the groans as the ball forward, not nearly good enough. Nathan Ordaz wanted it to his feet. Unfortunately, that's Diego Flores, who just came on less than 10 minutes ago for Alexander Larin. Playing those through balls forward, supporting the attack. That's not his strength nearly as much as it is Larin's. It's the fact that they lost him and then fell behind right afterward. Now you really need the attacking threat that someone like Larin would have, and he's gone. Jamilio Richters with the assist on that goal. Plays in the Jamaican League with Cavalier FC. Like Nathan Ordaz of El Salvador, he and his teammates played against Lionel Messi and Inter Miami in the Concacaf Champions Cup earlier this year. Gave them a really good battle, especially in the first leg in South Florida. So these Suriname players playing all over the world and increasingly being recruited to join the national team. Suriname free kick. El Salvador continue to give it away, and the frustration here in El Cuscatlán continuing to rise. This was Ordaz going crazy at Flores a moment ago. Nathan Ordaz is from California, but he was born to a Salvadorian family. Played for the Mexican youth national sides growing up, but decided to represent El Salvador. Now they win it in the middle of the park. Charging forward is Henriquez, threading it through for heel, and just too far as Hahn is out to smother. Worst turnover of the night for Suriname so far. There's been a card shown. Oh, right there, yeah. Heston Lonwick, the goal scorer, that was what started the whole sequence. There's no VAR, remember. We've been reminding you that all week during these qualifiers. VAR is not in play during these qualification games. So the calls stand as called on the field. That would have been an interesting one if VAR were in effect. Heston Lonwick is still down on the pitch after all that. This was his goal. It's a beautiful finish. was such good work by Richters to set him up. And he's not putting much weight on that leg, and looks like they might have to make an early change as well. Remember, Suriname, both these sides will be playing in the Gold Cup starting in less than a week. Suriname, it's part of why they made 8 changes to their starting 11 tonight. So Lonwick shown the yellow card as he was finally helped up. So they would hate to lose him for the Gold Cup. That's the main thing for Suriname tonight. They just didn't want any injuries. Of course, El Salvador don't either, but they have to worry about getting through the next qualifying round first. Like Stanley Menzo wants his team to take it easy and manage the game until they can make a substitution and get back to 11 v 11. That's the situation. Lonwick in the 19th minute. Didn't turn out to be here for a long time tonight, but he had a good time, at least until that injury, which we hope isn't too severe. Salvador, there's 2 balls on the pitch. It's been allowed to go on. Ordaz plays on then down the left side for Enriquez. Enriquez for Ordaz. Nathan Ordaz for Heel. Flag down. El Salvador level. And as it stands, they're back in the next round of World Cup qualifying. Colossal relief in El Coliseo. Brian Heel, who was born in Colombia, but wears El Salvador on his sleeve now, has his biggest goal for them so far. First it was Enriquez, then Ordaz, so unselfishly squaring it, and Heel had to tap in. Well, that's the quality that Nathan Ordaz brings. And that's the composure, too. Enriquez does so well to set it up, but it's all about Ordaz with that square ball. Everybody else thought he was going to shoot, including the goalkeeper. And Heel was all alone. So the pendulum for now swings back in El Salvador's favor. Puerto Rico still leads St. Vincent and the Grenadines 1-0. Draw is enough for El Salvador as it stands. It would be enough for them, period, because the best that Puerto Rico can do is 7 points, of course. El Salvador came into tonight with 7. Here's that change now for Suriname. So the goal that they conceded came when they only had 10 on the pitch. Denzel Jubatana comes on to replace Lonwick. Both sides have been forced to make an injury change inside the first 30 minutes or so. Long ball over the top for Heel, using his speed. Rolling out wide, then laying it off for Ordaz. Nathan Ordaz. Ordaz over the bar. He's come to life over the last 5 minutes. That's why he was screaming at his teammate to get the ball to his feet with room to run in the midfield about 10 minutes ago. That's when he's electric. Cuscatlán is bouncing again. Enriquez applying pressure. Enriquez forces the turnover. Wanted to chop it into the middle, then looked for the foul. As did 50,000 or so in here. John Freeman said no. And now the counter. And this will be a card for El Salvador. Jorge Cruz, the first in the book for them tonight. Both sides with one player on a card on the pitch right now. Margaret for Suriname and Cruz for El Salvador. Lonwick picked up the yellow card, but that was right as he was being subbed off for an injury. Boasius. No foul there. On we go with Montnor. Montnor to the end line. Squares it. And it's put out for a corner. Blocked at the near post by Landaverde. Everybody in blue. Asking referee John Freeman how it wasn't a foul right here. El Salvador came out with a ton of physicality tonight, but Suriname have shown that they can match that. Second corner for them. Set piece is always massive, but especially on a night like this. Oh, arrow to the far post, nobody there in white. Puerto Rico still leading St. Vincent and the Grenadines 1-0. Same time on the clock there, roughly. Costa Rica have taken a 1-0 lead over Trinidad. Both those sides would be headed through to the next round, unless Costa Rica score a bunch more in that game. This ball forward. Heel's going to run onto this. Heel trying to chop it inside, and does. Still Brian Heel. It's deflected. And then taken by Hahn. He had Ordaz to his left for a while. That was a moment for El Salvador to maybe make their progression to the final round a lot simpler. Suriname counter down the right. It's Richter's again, and his cross blocked. Richter's a real threat on that right side. Already set up one goal. Salvador winning more balls in the middle of the park, though. Here goes Ortiz. Santos Ortiz for Enriquez. Into the middle for Heel. Great touch then. Enriquez, what a block. Terrific from Mayenti Abena. Enriquez, though, has really come to life over the last 10 minutes. Heel bounce took it away from him. Player crumpling to the ground for El Salvador. Has there been another injury? And that's Heel. Grabbing his back. Don't know if it happened there. This was the chance a couple minutes ago. He was trying to cut it to the inside and then was trying to slip Ordaz in. And then decided to take the shot. Brian Tamakas getting instructions from head coach Hernan Gomez. One of a couple players on this El Salvador team that played in the USL Championship in the United States for a while. Jairo Enriquez is the other. He played for Colorado Springs for several years. He's now back in the Salvadorian League with Aguila. Final 5 of the first half. Lonwick opened the scoring in the 19th. Heel responded in the 32nd. This result is good enough for El Salvador. But if they concede another goal, then they'd be back out as it stands. Costa Rica have taken a 2-0 lead over Trinidad. That would still be okay from Trinidad's perspective, but it's starting to get uncomfortable for them. We'll explain more in a second. Down the left, meanwhile, Jean-Paul Boetius for Suriname. Being given a lot of room. Wave going around the stadium. It's a party atmosphere again, at least for now. It's a good challenge from Ortiz. Player stays down for Suriname. Well, he certainly got the ball. He got the man afterward. Jaden Turfcrier. He could have gone either way in terms of a decision. Finish the thought on Costa Rica and Trinidad and Tobago, by the way. Trinidad and Tobago in second place at the start of that game. Level on points with Grenada, who are currently third, but Trinidad's goal differential was +10, Grenada's was +4. So Trinidad would have to lose by a lot in that game to overturn that goal differential. Right now it's still +8, so they'd have to concede several more for that to be a problem for them. They're down 2-0 late in the first half at Costa Rica, who are already through. Costa Rica appear to be headed for 4 wins from 4 in this second round of qualifying. With the final round of Concacaf qualifying, as we take a look at this foul against Denzel Jubatana. Final round of Concacaf qualifying kicks off in September. It will run over 3 months, September, October, November, during the international windows in those months. 12 Concacaf nations will qualify for that final round. Remember, this round had 6 groups of 5 nations each. Only the top 2 moved on. So it'll be down to 12 after tonight. This ball intended for heel, shouldered off it by Mayenti Abena. Now some space through the midfields, and the through ball is slightly overhit. Out of his area comes Gonzalez to sweep up. Ordaz. Suriname will play a bit of a high line. It can leave them vulnerable to these counters. Ordaz isolated against Pinas out wide. Into the middle it comes. A little bit of confusion as to who that was intended for. Ortiz took it eventually. Fed it along to Cartagena, and Cartagena struck it against the body. Final minute of the 45, a throw for El Salvador in the attacking third. We'll find out about stoppage time in just a moment. goes over the top, and Cartagena might have something here. He goes down looking for a penalty. What's the referee given here? I think he's given the corner. Yeah, saying it came off the knee of Boasius. Well, Salvador wanted a penalty. Suriname thought they should have had a goal kick. Compromise. Ordaz to take the corner as we tick into first half stoppage time. He takes it short, gets the return, and then looks to stand it up backside, and it comes all the way through, and it's a near post header that's snatched by Hahn. Brian Landaverde, good concentration because it didn't look like this ball would reach him. He did the right thing. He expected it to. Still haven't seen the fourth official indicate how much added time we're going to have. Suriname look like they're just fine to get to half at 1-1. Again, they're not obligated to win or draw tonight. They're already through to the final round no matter what. This breaks for them. They might have something here. It's Boasius, but then immediately tackled. Still could be something late for El Salvador in this first half. Ordaz turns on the speed, then tries to chop it back and does. And Ordaz curling it, intended for Enriquez. Midfield has been very open for El Salvador sometimes tonight. Now it's Margaret. Only had one to aim for in the box. Chooses to pull it back. Turf Crier. Suriname very patient. Home crowd doesn't like that, even though a draw is good enough for them. Closing stages in Puerto Rico, still 1-0 only to Puerto Rico. This ball headed out of play, and it's a goal kick. Puerto Rico expected to win that game against St. Vincent and the Grenadines comfortably, so the fact that they're only a goal ahead moments before halftime, probably not quite as good as they were expecting it to be. So there is still the outside chance that El Salvador could get help from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in which case Puerto Rico failed to win that game, then the result here wouldn't actually matter for El Salvador. 7 minutes now is the indication of how much added time we'll have at the end of this first half. We're already 3 minutes into that. We have had a couple of injuries in this first half. There have been more stoppages than usual. Good touch from Ordaz just to settle it for a teammate. Calms down that scrappy sequence. Tamaras stays in play down the line. Is there a foul there? Yes, there is. Free kick El Salvador. Turf Crier, too much on the shoulder challenge. More of just a straight push on Cartagena. So on a night where they just have to avoid defeat, and Salvador could go into halftime with a lead, that would really make things a lot more straightforward for them in the second half. It's Ordaz and Enriquez standing around it. Cibrian and Duraso Class being summoned over by the referee. Ordaz runs over it. Enriquez hits it and flipped to the backside, and it was dangerous for a second. Ran past Landaverde. Free kick goes against El Salvador. Final seconds of the first half. They have reached halftime in Puerto Rico. It's 1-0. Puerto Rico leading St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Right now, El Salvador on 8 points, Puerto Rico on 7. That second and final advancement spot out of this group. Last seconds of the first half. Very late free kick for El Salvador and a very late card for Turf Crier. Referee holding up 2 fingers to him, saying that's your second. Just a short bit. That's all for the first half. Gripping first half at the Cuscatlán here in San Salvador. El Salvador started brightly and then got punched in the gut. One of their best players injured, conceded a goal just a couple minutes later. They rallied admirably. They leveled in the 32nd minute through Brian Heel off a terrific assist from Nathan Ordaz. It's a result that's good enough for them if it stays this way, but still 45 massive minutes to come for them to navigate as Suriname seek a perfect group phase with 45 gone and 45 to go in this final game of this group stage. It is El Salvador 1, Suriname 1. An action-packed first 45 minutes in this final qualifying game here in this group. It's El Salvador needing a draw to reach the final round of qualifying. They almost fell behind early on, although this play was whistled down for this foul against Jaden Montnor. Still a good save by Mario Gonzalez in the El Salvador goal, even though it wouldn't have counted. Then the early injury to Alexander Larin, a big blow for El Salvador, who then suffered an even bigger one a few minutes later. Great work down the right by Jamilio Richters, who set up Justin Lonwick for the beautiful finish and a beautiful Surinamese goal. And in the 19th minute, they were ahead, and the Cuscatlán was stunned. And for a bit at least, El Salvador were out of the final round as it stood. Defeat the one thing El Salvador probably can't afford tonight if Puerto Rico beat St. Vincent of the Grenadines. And it was almost 2 a few minutes later. El Salvador were reeling at this moment. And this ball flying just over the top. But in the 32nd minute, they hauled themselves level. It was Enriquez to Ordaz. Beautiful square ball to set up Brian Heel, who couldn't miss. And the crowd erupted. The mood was lifted, as was the tension for the moment here in San Salvador. It's such good work from Ordaz. He initially laid it off to Enriquez, so he started the move too. And Enriquez did very well. Picks just the right moment to slide Ordaz through, and Ordaz unselfishly laying it on that proverbial plate for Brian Heel. And then Heel had a chance to put them ahead a few minutes later. Just was a bit indecisive. Maybe got it stuck under his foot a bit. Wanted to slide in Ordaz, then decided to shoot. By that time, the defense had recovered, and the chance was gone. Even though 1-1's good enough for El Salvador, they'll hope they don't regret this little moment by the end of this night. If Suriname were to win this game in the second half, that's one that would haunt them. Late on, a header from Brian Landaverde that he did well just to get something on through that traffic. It was saved by Warner Hahn, and so halftime at 1-1. So the numbers from our first half. Shots are 8-2 in favor of El Salvador, 2 on target. They picked up 10 fouls in that first half. Maybe a little fortunate to only see 1 card from those 10 fouls. Suriname, 4 fouls, and were shown 3 yellows. The possession 65% in Suriname's favor. Corners were 3-2 in favor of El Salvador. And Suriname already through to the next round. Situation for second place in El Salvador's favor right now. They can't afford to lose. They would love to grab that next goal to turn the rest of this second half into a party. If Suriname grab the next one, it will get very tense in here once again. A big 45 still to come. We'll have it for you in just a few minutes when we return to San Salvador. It is 1-1 at the break. Back for the second half in this magnificent stadium, the Cuscatlán here in San Salvador. It's 1-1 between El Salvador and Suriname. In a game where Suriname have already done their work. They've already advanced to the final round of Concacaf World Cup qualifying later this fall. El Salvador need a point tonight, need a draw at least to confirm their place in that final round. They have to avoid defeat. They were losing for 13 minutes of the first half when Suriname took a lead in the 19th minute through Justin Lonwick. He then had to leave the game with an injury. El Salvador tied the game in the 32nd minute through Brian Heel. There have been 3 changes at halftime. Suriname have made 2 of them. They've taken off Jaden Turfkrier and Anthony Dijksteel. They have brought on Liam van Gelderen. They've also brought on another player with El Salvador taking off Santos Ortiz and bringing on Harold Osorio. Javencio Vanderkust, the other player that's come on for Suriname. We're back underway for the second half. How do El Salvador manage this tactically? Because again, a draw is good enough for them, but playing for a draw is always risky, especially against a team with the attacking prowess that Suriname have. If you sit back against them, they can pick you apart. Remember, if you've never watched Suriname play before, they're a side with a significant diaspora over the last 50 or 60 years, many of whom settled in the Netherlands and became part of that incredibly rich footballing culture in Holland. So many Dutch national team legends of Surinamese descent over the years. And now recently, Suriname opening up their national team to those dual nationals. They can now represent Suriname, and so that has led to this renaissance in the Surinamese national team recently. They are a much more skilled and formidable side than they were a decade ago. This is going to be an early card here in the second half, shown to Melvin Cartagena. He becomes the second player in the book for El Salvador. Dragged back Denzel Jubatana. And both these sides will be in the Gold Cup, which kicks off this Saturday. So Suriname made 8 changes to their starting 11 for this game. They want to avoid injuries going into the Gold Cup. Salvador have to worry about qualifying for the next round of the World Cup before they can think about this other tournament. Here comes Suriname into the area, and it's just over. What an early chance for Richanel Margaret. And El Salvador can breathe again for now. It's a great cross in and probably should have been finished off. Margaret making just his 5th appearance for Suriname, had a chance to score his first goal for the national side. Tried to volley it with his studs, as it turned out, and couldn't steer it on target. Ordaz, who was terrific in the first half for El Salvador, created their first goal. Now by the end line, Osorio, who just came on at halftime, shielding the ball by the corner, and then whips in a cross. Some shirt pulling there that the referee let go. Harold Osorio, the player we just saw on the ball in the corner for El Salvador, brought on at halftime. 21 years old, one of the youngest players in this El Salvador team. Highly touted young talent, creative, good vision, central midfielder generally, but can play out wide. Plays for Chicago Fire in Major League Soccer. Nice ball into the area, collected by Gonzalez. Well, there's been news in the other game in this group, Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. More on that in a moment. Here's Diego Flores down the left side and crossing in. Looked like it was causing trouble for just a moment before it was cleared. St. Vincent and the Grenadines have scored early in the second half, and they have evened their game against Puerto Rico 1-1. That's great news for El Salvador. Unexpected news as the back heel return doesn't work out for them. They're able to win it back. Flores again toward the back post, and heavy collision. The referee has blown the whistle. This goal does not count. Ball was in the net, but it's waved off. Heel slamming into Werner Hahn. It's great dedication by Heel to hit the ball in from the ground, just in case. Here come El Salvador again. Ordaz released down the right. Ordaz to the end line, cuts it back for Heel. It didn't quite reach. Again, Nathan Ordaz is a live wire. But St. Vincent and the Grenadines equalizing against Puerto Rico. They're 1-1 now in the 53rd minute. Olex Anderson scoring just about 90 seconds into the second half. And Puerto Rico expected to win that game convincingly. It's not happening now. This is a chance for Suriname, perhaps. Good tackle. Just as Richinel Margaret was about to break in. Margaret's had a couple opportunities early in this second half. So if Puerto Rico don't beat St. Vincent and the Grenadines, if they draw or lose that game, then this result doesn't matter for El Salvador. They'd be through either way. Puerto Rico would still be expected to score and go on and win that game against St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but visitors are making it tough there, as they have here. This is a free kick for Suriname. Stanley Menzo's side took the lead in the 19th. Jubatana was fouled there. Jubatana came on for Justin Lonwick, who scored their goal. Stanley Menzo, raised in the Dutch total football tradition at Ajax. Played for Johan Cruyff. Was his teammate, in fact. Trying to bring that possession style to Suriname. Jean-Paul Boetius to take this free kick, and it's not his best. So everything in the balance. Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines 1-1. El Salvador and Suriname 1-1. So right now, El Salvador a full 3 points ahead of Puerto Rico for that second spot. The top two in each group moving on to the final round. 12 teams qualifying for that last round of qualification in September and October and November. Those will be split into 3 groups of 4. Only the winner of each group will win a guaranteed spot in the FIFA World Cup next summer. Free kick El Salvador. Richter's giving away the foul. There is a chance that up to 5 of those 12 teams who reach that final qualification round could go on to the World Cup. The two best second place finishers in those 3 groups would go into the Interconfederation playoff, which will be played next March against the runners-up from the other federations around the world. Concacaf will have at least 6 representatives in this World Cup, potentially up to 8. El Salvador hoping to be one of them for the first time since 1982. And this is driven in, great chance, punched away, second ball's blocked. 2 good opportunities from close range for El Salvador. If they score that next goal, they're basically through. Not just yet. Great initial stop from Werner Hahn, then it was a good block afterward. Ten minutes gone in the second half. Awkward bouncing ball. Hahn is able to collect. Well, here's that save. It's a wonderful delivery. The header from Osorio was excellent. And then the block from Javencio Vanderkust probably saved a goal after that. That's a great ball down the left side. It'll be caught up to by Jaden Montnor. It is a corner. Look from behind the goal at that stop by Werner Hahn. And then the block. Brian Landaverde, I think, was going to score if that ball hadn't been blocked. Jean-Paul Boetius, who skied that free kick a couple minutes ago, will take this corner. Boetius floating this in. They're shirt pulling in the box. And a goal kick is given. Mayanti Abena first felt he was being pulled back, then felt that the ball came off the El Salvador defender last. He didn't get either call. And with no VAR, you can often get away with more on set pieces like this. Yeah, if VAR were in effect in this game, that certainly would have been looked at. Would they have called the referee to the pitch side monitor? Not sure. Can never say for certain, but that would have been a big talking point. That's the kind of stuff you really can't do nowadays with VAR in effect, but it's not there in these qualifying rounds. Heavy challenge there, and already, well, Richters, who doesn't have a yellow yet, he's going to stay off a yellow. Van Gelderen initially with the challenge, then Richters comes in hard. It was one-footed. He did get the ball, as he said. Just one player on the pitch with a card for Suriname. That's Richanel Margaret. 2 on yellows for El Salvador, Cartagena and Cruz. El Salvador so fiercely proud of their football tradition. Been in the World Cup twice. They have a free kick here. That's a bad foul to give away by Margaret, who is on that yellow, remember. John Freeman, the referee, seems to be telling him, hey, be smart. I don't want to send you off. He's being told no more. Wouldn't be surprised to see Stanley Menso take him off. They nearly scored from their last free kick, El Salvador. Enriquez delivers high-quality balls with that right foot. They look for another from him. Flores is also around it. But you'd be stunned if this wasn't Henriquez. Osorio, the guy who headed it on target and nearly scored a moment ago, jostling with Mayentia Bena and apparently having a good time with it. It is Cartagena. He slides it short for Ordaz, who rolls it further. Training ground routine that didn't quite work this time. Still 1-1 between Puerto Rico and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So El Salvador cruising through at the moment. It could still change very suddenly. If Puerto Rico go back ahead, if El Salvador fall back behind, that could flip. Half an hour to go. That Puerto Rico game is a few minutes ahead of us now because they didn't have 7 minutes of stoppage time at the end of the first half the way this game did. So El Salvador will, in all likelihood, know the result of that game a few minutes before this one ends. Now, Puerto Rico don't score again in that game. El Salvador could be through before this game concludes. Well, it could be. They spend the last few minutes frantically trying to find an equalizer if they fall back behind and Puerto Rico win their game. Right now, Hernan Gomez's dream of taking a fourth nation to a FIFA World Cup very much living on. You can hear this crowd in the Cuscatlán. It's gotten tense again. I know this is still tenuous. Nobody's throwing a party yet. This will be a free kick for Suriname. Harold Osorio told to calm down by the referee. Earlier today, Bermuda defeated Cuba in Santiago, Cuba. And so Bermuda, one of the biggest surprises to reach the final round of qualifying. They had to win that game. Cuba just needed a draw to go through. Bermuda won it 2-1. So congratulations to Bermuda. They will be one of those 12. We'll make up that final qualifying round this fall. Curacao finished off a perfect group with their fourth straight win. They beat Haiti 5-1. Haiti had won their first 3 games in the groups. They'll still go through. Curacao looking great as they try to reach their first ever World Cup. St. Lucia wrapped up their qualifying campaign with their first win of the group. They beat Barbados 2-1. Dominican Republic with a 5-0 win over Dominica. And this through ball will be scooped up by Gonzalez. Jamaica comprehensively winning their group over Guatemala with a 3-0 win in Kingston. Remember, Guatemala rallied to beat the Dominican Republic 4-2 last Friday. That was crucial because if Guatemala hadn't won that game, they could have been out after losing to Jamaica tonight. But they are through. They were through at the start of the night. Both those teams are among the final 12. Panama winning their group, defeating Nicaragua 3-0. Panama looking to make their second FIFA World Cup. They missed out in 2022. They stuck with Thomas Christensen, who has taken them to a couple Concacaf Nations League finals since. They will be in the final qualifying round again. Game in just a bit of a lull here in San Salvador. Suriname don't need a result tonight. El Salvador, as it stands right now, actually don't either. Here comes El Salvador's third change of the night. They bring on Elvin Alvarado for Jairo Henriquez, who was excellent. He had a big part in their goal in the 32nd minute. Elvin Alvarado, 27 years old, plays in El Salvador, as many of these players do for La Selecta. Energetic midfielder. Can sometimes join the attack, usually plays deeper in the midfield. It's a good ball on the left. Montnor. One-on-one against Cibrian. That's a very good ball, and it slid through. Could be an opportunity here. The back heel flick and the loose ball clear to the edge of the area. Put right back into the mix and sliced wide. With three white shirts begging for it in the box, Montnor couldn't steer the cross. Now Suriname will make a substitution as their normal captain, Dion Malone, comes on. He replaces Shaquille Pinas. If you're wondering, by the way, Shaquille Pinas is named after Shaquille O'Neal. He departs after 66.5 minutes. Dion Malone, 36 years old. He's been the leader of this Suriname side for a long time. He's really been a bridge between the old and new era of this Suriname national program. They've welcomed so many European-based players, members of that diaspora recently. He's been a great ambassador for the team, and he's helped all those new recruits settle in and become part of the setup. He's on for the final 23 minutes plus stoppage time tonight. Still 1-1 in Puerto Rico, still 1-1 here. El Salvador heading through to be one of those final 12 in Concacaf at the moment. The ball from Montnor to attack. His first touch was excellent. And who did it come off last? It's a goal kick. Good defending. Montnor doesn't think so. Well, Brian Tamakas immediately pointing goal kick, and the referee agreed. Atmosphere is interesting. It's very quiet right now. Big cheer the way that ball was handled by the bench. It was one of the assistants for El Salvador, showing a cultured first touch. the turnover forced by Osorio. Osorio trying to slide in a teammate, but it was behind Elvin Alvarado. Now the counter for Suriname. It's cleaned up a bit messily, and then it's out for a corner. Julio Cibrian was trying to just whack that out into touch, I think, but sliced it across the end line instead. So a corner for Suriname. Jean-Paul Boetius lifting it in and over everyone. Over 70 minutes on the clock. Ordaz. Crowd wanted that ball played forward early. Some impatience now because El Salvador know that a draw is enough for them tonight. Not taking too many risks. Crowd wants them to go for the win. Good work in the middle by Cartagena, and then the foul. Free kick, card coming out. Javencio Vanderkust, next player in the book. Vanderkust plays in Belgium. He's just 24. A lot of these Suriname players in their mid-20s. It's a pretty young side. Salvador looking for that next goal that would just about wrap up their spot in the final qualifying round. Nathan Ordaz ready to take, drills it in, and just beyond the back post where Jorge Cruz was trying to race onto the end of it. Whistle goes for a Suriname free kick. Neither side taking too many gambles in this second half. And Suriname right now focused more on the Gold Cup. It starts this weekend. Participated in the Gold Cup for the first time in 2021. That was such a huge milestone for them. Their newfound ability to seriously compete in this region. They want to show in that competition this year just how far they've come since. So they'd love to win again tonight and make it a perfect 4 wins out of 4 in this qualifying round. But a draw ultimately would be just fine for them. Even a defeat wouldn't be catastrophic at all. It still could be catastrophic for El Salvador, although at the moment they're being helped. As I say that, Puerto Rico have just scored, and they've taken a 2-1 lead over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and now this is a free kick for Suriname, and now El Salvador, again, have to avoid defeat. They're still okay as it stands, but with Puerto Rico back in front, now El Salvador need a point, at least. 1 point is fine, no points. Once again now, unacceptable from their standpoint. So if Suriname were to create something from this free kick and El Salvador were to find themselves back behind, that would be a big problem again. "15 minutes to go here. Denzel Jubatana swings it in. Ooh, that was dangerous, even though there was nobody in white. It was Julio Cibrian who was throwing himself at it, headed back to his own goal. That's always so dangerous for a central defender. It's a spot that they hate to be in. If you make contact with that ball, it could go anywhere, including your own net. Fortunately for El Salvador, he didn't. May have gotten a shout from his goalkeeper to leave it at the last second. So it's Puerto Rico 2, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 1. This is stabbed on the right. It's going to be hunted down by Alvarado. You can feel the intensity cranked back up in this stadium now. They know, they're very aware. It is all right back in the mix. They have it again on the right. Cross blocked out. This crowd desperate for El Salvador to score a second and take the lead and ease their nerves again. This is going to be an agonizing last 15 plus if it stays 1-1 for these 50,000 or so. And it's crossed in. It's Heel, and how did he miss? It's still alive for Ordaz. Big scramble. Whistle goes. Free kick for Suriname. Brian Heel. It's a great chance, and he just couldn't get himself turned in the right direction. Mayenti Abena may have just impeded him legally enough to force his body to turn to keep him from heading it on goal. And that ball was in midair. It looked certain that it was going to be 2-1 El Salvador. It is not. And it is still a bundle of nerves in the Cuscatlán. That's kept in play by Osorio, who slips it infield for Ordaz, who can't get around to Bena. Another Suriname free kick. It's not that El Salvador expect to make every World Cup. It's a nation that got to the World Cup in 1970, again in 1982. That 82 team especially is revered in this nation. They've not been since. But this cycle of all cycles, with the expanded field, 48 teams making the World Cup instead of the previous 32. CONCACAF getting at least 6 of those slots with the potential for up to 8. There's so much more opportunity. The United States, Mexico, Canada all automatically qualified because they're host nations. They're not a part of this qualification tournament. The big guns, you don't have to deal with them this time around. This was the chance, not just for El Salvador, but for so many others whose road has typically been much tougher in the past. Well, it's still tough now because these other teams in the region are improving. And Suriname, one of those. And they're making it difficult on El Salvador tonight. Puerto Rico still leads St. Vincent and the Grenadines 2-1. El Salvador are doing enough as it stands, but barely. And this crowd is screaming for something here. Referee saying the contact was to the chest, not to the face, and he says play on. And from that angle, I think he was right. Now he does blow for a Suriname free kick, and the reaction tells you what you need to know, as does the showing of the card. Behind Verde, the third player on a yellow tonight for El Salvador. Ten minutes to go. 10 minutes for El Salvador to at least hold out for a draw and advance. 10 potentially agonizing minutes. And more beyond that, how much more we'll see. How much stoppage time will there be? And how much does Suriname press for that winner? See, right now they're pretty relaxed about it. They have the quality at any moment to score another goal. This is where El Salvador, under head coach Hernan Gomez, who's always been famous for being able to construct very defensively solid teams. It's how he's gotten those small nations to 3 other World Cups. There's Ordaz clogging up that passing lane and intercepting. This is where that defensive solidity will be needed. El Salvador free kick. Salvador, understandably, in no hurry to take this. Puerto Rico will be desperate for Suriname to grab another goal. Of course, this was the advantage El Salvador had coming into this final game. It was in their hands. They knew as long as they got a draw from this, they'd be okay. Puerto Rico went into their game against St. Vincent and the Grenadines knowing they had to win, and they also had to have significant help from Suriname, which they initially got in the 19th minute with Justin Lonwick giving Suriname the lead. Brian Heel in the 32nd dragged El Salvador level with great work from Nathan Ordaz to set him up. And right now that goal is enough for the Azul y Blanco to get through. They have to defend Jubatana, who pulls it back for Klaas. And then whacked away. Julio Cibrian, the captain, has taken a seat. Change for Suriname. Renski Adipi comes on. And Jean-Paul Boetius jogs off. Mentioned in the first half, Boetius has already survived 2 bouts of cancer. It's been a very inspirational story. His night is done after 83.5 minutes. Renski Adipi, one of the locally based players for Suriname. He plays in the Surinamese league for Transvaal. Generally a more defensive-minded central midfielder. crowd doesn't like it, but the El Salvador team and coaching staff will be just fine seeing Suriname knock it around like this. The scoreline stays this way. It won't be the most convincing way to advance for El Salvador, but right now all that matters is advancing. El Salvador perfectly happy to sit off the ball, let Suriname have it. Stay compact, defensively solid. Jubatana. 5 minutes of the 90 remaining. Back heel down the line. Suriname throw. El Salvador about to bring Darwin Siren on. He's not coming on just yet. Siren, a very popular figure. He's a guy who's made over 100 appearances for El Salvador. Their most capped player. So we'll see him shortly. Suriname with all the possession. Van Gelderen. Those blue shirts sitting back, and that ball forward will be harmless. Now that substitution, Siren will replace Brian Landaverde. Nathan Ordaz also goes off. Enrico Dueñas comes on in his place. Ordaz setting up the goal in the 32nd minute. That looks like it's going to make all the difference for El Salvador. Make sure their World Cup dream lives on for at least a few more months. Darwin Siren, his 103rd appearance for El Salvador. Dropped out of university and worked in a brick factory to support his family early on in his career. Went on to play in MLS for a long time. He was the first Salvadorian to captain an MLS side. Regarded as one of the heart and soul players of this national team. Osorio dispossessed. And then turned over on the edge of the box to Dueñas. And he chips it for Siren, and Siren lifts it back post and somehow goes past two in blue. The second was Alvarado. Siren almost sets up the game winner right off the bench. Heel was right there. It was a crucial piece of defending by Dion Malone. Great touch by Siren. Salvador just want to keep the ball anytime they get a chance to. This was the chance a moment ago. This cross is very good. I think Malone may have just gotten his head to it. It's great defending either way. It's still 2-1 to Puerto Rico. They're in stoppage time now as they lead St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that game a few minutes ahead of this one. How much stoppage time will this one have as we go into the final minute of the 90? And a result that is good enough for El Salvador to go through. They can't concede a goal, though. They can't lose. These fans not happy that they're playing for the draw. You can understand why they're doing it. But this ball over the top finds Heel, who tried to volley it first time. Wins the throw instead. We're about to find out how much stoppage time we'll have. Three minutes is the indication. There haven't been that many stoppages in the second half, so that's not too surprising. Along the line, Dueñas, a good initial touch. Now El Salvador have to make sure they get back. They're able to win it back. It's really a strange atmosphere because they're about to advance if they can just hold out and hold on to this 1-1 draw. But this home crowd is really unhappy that they're playing for it. Alvarado. Goal kick. In the 5th minute of stoppage time in Puerto Rico. Still 2-1 to Puerto Rico. The El Salvador bench pleading with their players to not listen to the crowd. Just be calm, sit in, see out these final 90 seconds or so. And it so helps El Salvador that Suriname don't need a win here either. Rare to hear the home fans shouting "Olé" for the other team passing it around. It's been a strange night, but one more attack for Suriname now. This isn't done yet. Jubitana. Well, Puerto Rico will be frustrated if they could see this, but again, they went into this knowing it wasn't in their hands. Salvador desperate for the final whistle. John Freeman checking his watch. He blows the final whistle, and it is over. Well, it wasn't convincing. The response from the home crowd isn't convincing either. But it's still a massive result in El Cuscatlán for El Salvador, because their dreams of ending 44 years of World Cup purgatory will live on into the fall. The home crowd wanted more, but they advanced to the final round of Concacaf qualifying in September. They grabbed the vital equalizer in the 32nd minute through Brian Heel. And as much as the home fans and maybe the home press won't be too pleased, this could have been so much worse for El Salvador if not for that equalizing goal set up by Ordaz, scored by Heel after Lonwick had opened the scoring for Suriname and had threatened to knock them out completely. And so Suriname will live to fight further and be one of those final 12 in CONCACAF, playing those qualifiers in September, October, and November as they try to end that 4-decade-long wait to go back to another FIFA World Cup. It was at times loud. It was at times contentious. It was at times strange. It's a weird way to end it. Fantastic stadium. It was a great first half. It was a timid second half. And it's ended. El Salvador 1, Suriname 1. So the highlights from our 90 minutes tonight, and Suriname came out really strongly, and it looked like they had a chance in the 10th minute, but this play was whistled down for a foul as the push was given against Jaden Montnor. And then the early injury that forced one of the key players out, Alexander Larin, and then just a few minutes later, Suriname grabbing the lead. And this is where it looked like it could be a disastrous night for El Salvador. 19 minutes in, Suriname led 1-0, and El Salvador, for the moment, were out entirely. With Puerto Rico winning against St. Vincent and the Grenadines, this could have been a very dark night in El Salvador's footballing history. And it was a great goal, too. And Suriname, when they go through the gears like this, they're so good. They can be very slick and fluid, and they almost doubled the lead a few minutes later. But then El Salvador got the vital goal in the 32nd minute. It was Enriquez, it was Ordaz, it was Heel. It was so well done. And the Cuscatlán was crackling. And it was 1-1. Ordaz starts the move. Enriquez does really well. Watch how well he times this little through ball. And it's such a good layoff from Ordaz. Great vision. Never looked at Heel, just knew he was there. And slid it across where Heel had a tap in. Goalkeeper had to come out and commit. And it's a simple finish for Heel. And a few minutes later, Heel had a chance to give them the lead and ultimately the win. Just dwelt on it a little too long. Maybe got it stuck under his feet. Ordaz wanted it the whole time. Never quite got it on that sequence. The goalkeeper was able to collect at the end of it. And late in the first half, it was good concentration to head this on goal by Brian Landaverde. Coming over the defender's head. You see so many attackers not make contact on a ball like that. He did. Second half was very conservative from both teams. Early on, there were a couple attacks from Suriname. In fact, just 2 minutes into the second half, they really should have grabbed the lead. It's a great ball in for Richinel Margaret. And Margaret sticking out that right foot. Got it with the underside of the studs and couldn't redirect it on frame. This cross into the back post resulted in the ball in the back of the net, but it was disallowed immediately for the foul on Brian Heel as he slammed into the goalkeeper, Werner Hahn. Again, Heel with great improvisation to head the ball in from a prone position on the ground, but it did not count. And then the best chance in the second half for El Salvador's great save by Hahn. Second ball was very well blocked by Juvencio Vanderkust. Initial chance for Harold Osorio. And so it stayed 1-1. Wonderful delivery, too, from Enriquez, who was great tonight for El Salvador. And then a free kick from Ordaz that just overshot Jorge Cruz on the back post. El Salvador knew that a draw would be good enough for them. They had a chance here with Heel, and Heel was just defended well enough by Mayenty Abena. See, Heel just couldn't get his body and his head turned in the right direction. The cross ended up slightly behind him. And so it stayed 1-1. And then another late chance for El Salvador. This was a wonderful cross in from Darwin Seren. And it went all the way through everybody at the back post. Heel was up for it. Very good defending by Dion Malone, who just gets a body on him. But that was enough for El Salvador as it finishes 1 each. So our final numbers tonight: 9 shots for El Salvador, 5 for Suriname. With just 3 on target for El Salvador. They had 20 fouls on the night, 3 cards. Teams finished 11 v 11, even though there were a total of 7 yellows on the night. 67% of the ball for Suriname, but El Salvador, even though the reaction from the home fans wasn't great at full time, they do enough. So we hope you enjoyed it here tonight. El Salvador through. It finished in San Salvador. El Salvador 1, Suriname 1.